Okay, let's shift gears a little bit, obviously staying on the same topic, but now we are going to be providing an opportunity to learn about the variety of ways that religion sort of approaches this subject of abortion. We know that many religions have subsets, so we are not trying to provide a comprehensive look at every single religion because we wouldn't be able to do that. But any amount of looking at some different religions and how they approach this, and I think we're going to start to see a lot of similarities, even though the religions themselves may seem different, is sort of what we're here to do tonight. We aim to broaden our perspective and provide a snapshot of differing views offered by religious leaders as well as lay leaders. If you take a look at what we've got up here right now, this is the number of Americans by religion, which is a pretty interesting snapshot at where we are as a country. Hang on, I am glitching again. We'll just pause me for a second. As our panelists come on and talk for just a couple of minutes each, we are hoping that they will share a little bit about themselves, their religion, as well as their personal approach to the abortion issue. Again, as you are listening, if you have questions, please just put them in the chat because we are hoping to get to some of these as well. I'm going to now, Helen is going to start to ask our panelists to unmute. I will be introducing you just briefly, and then I'll spotlight each of you to start to talk. We have, and please forgive me if I don't say your names correctly, Isha Sabarwal and Gayatri Sitaraman. How did I do? Oh,
yes, you are good.
Both representing Hinduism tonight. Asma Raza is here representing Islam.
Hello.
Hi, Asma. Hazan Tal Ben Yehuda is here for Judaism, and I know we saw her earlier.
I'm here.
Perfect, wonderful. Mackenzie Davis is here representing the Latter-day Saints. Perfect. Hi, Mackenzie. And Allison Heil, who introduced herself earlier, is here for the non-deity belief system and humanism. Hi, Allison.
Hi.
And Lynette Johnson is here for the Protestant faith. Hi, Lynette.
Hi. Wow.
So first of all, thank you all so much for joining us. We were so lucky to have all of you. I'm going to unspotlight you, and perfect. So when I bring each of you up, I will spotlight you, and we're going to probably talk for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Just let's try and keep it to that so we can make sure we get to everyone. And just sort of approach a little bit about you, a little bit about your religion, and how abortion, how you approach abortion. Okay, so let's see. I am going to start with Gayatri. Let me find you, and I'm going to make you big. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. It's wonderful to be a part of this diverse group. Listening to Denise, it was an eye-opener. You know, the state of affairs in Missouri, it is quite an eye-opener. It was listening to her. So, hello and namaste, everyone. I am Gayatri Sitaraman. I was born and raised in India, and I studied to be an accountant and a programmer. Not, you know, that's quite typical, I guess, of Indians. But since moving to the US, which was around 25 years back, I took to my passion, and now I'm a visual artist. My husband, Situ, is a professor at the Olin School of Business at Washington University. Our daughter, she's a senior at Caltech, and our son, he's a freshman at high school. And we follow the Hindu faith. So Hinduism is a network of thoughts, beliefs, concepts, rituals, traditions, and philosophies. There is no one single book or one single person that we are required to follow. It is a very pluralistic religion, not polytheistic as it's generally thought of. I would say pluralistic because it acknowledges and embraces the diversity that the ultimate goal, which is according to Hinduism, liberation or self-realization, can be approached in various methods, in various forms. You could worship the god, the goddess, you could be an atheist or even an agnostic person, but still fall under the broad umbrella of being Hindu. But now when it comes to the topic of abortion, Hinduism, being a very non-dogmatic religion, does not prescribe abortion. It does, however, consider the act of abortion to be violent. The reason behind being Hinduism believes in this karmic cycle, that is of birth, life, death, and rebirth. So each birth helps you to move forward with your journey towards attaining your liberation or your salvation. So when you abruptly end that, that is considered a violent act. But it also says that women, when they are in danger, abortion is permitted. And according to the Hindu faith, mostly agreed upon, is the fetus starts to have a consciousness or have a self-identity starting from the 16th week of pregnancy. So for all practical purposes, actually, in Hinduism, you are free to choose. You are actually even encouraged to act upon your moral agency. The responsibility does not fall on any book. It does not lie in any book. Abortion is discouraged. It is not actively encouraged. It is discouraged. But to the best of my understanding of Hindu religion, abortion is not banned. There is no ban on abortion from the religious point of view. So my view on abortion, on the true essence of Hinduism, having the freedom and liberty to choose one's own path, which is extremely important, I would say I would like to take my own decision, make my own decision, and be responsible for my own decision. So I would think that the future generations should be educated, informed, so that they have the definite values and convictions, so they're able to make the right choice, both morally and ethically. And according to the Pew Research, 68% of Hindu Americans have the preference to have the freedom of choice. So I'm one among them. I love to have my freedom of choice. And and that's about the Hinduism. It doesn't really have any dogmatic views as to this is it and this is not it. So it is upon your moral agency to do how you seem fit. So that's about Hinduism. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm going to also bring on Isha Sabharwal. Let me just find you real quick, Isha. Hang on. I'm looking through so many people to spotlight you. Where did you go, Isha?
No worries.
Hang on. Where are you, Isha? Bear with me. Wave your hand. Oh, there you are. I see you. I got you. I got you. Sorry, Isha, I'm so sorry. I had found you and then we came back. I'm so sorry.
No,
and
no worries at all.
you also are Hindu, yes? But,
yes.
So you do the same thing, and if yours doesn't line up exactly, that's okay.
Sure.
Thank
yeah.
you.
So I'll start by saying thank you so much for having me, and I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really excited to learn from others. I'm definitely not an expert in Hinduism. This is me talking about my experiences, what I've learned as I've grown up, and I am a practicing Hindu, and so what I've learned from my community and what I've learned from my family. And so a little bit about me. I grew up in St. Louis. I actually went to Washington University for undergrad. I graduated about 4 or 5 years ago. And so since graduating, I've been working as a software engineer. And I just wanted to take some time to talk about a few of the key points of Hinduism that stick out to me as really like symbolizing the main messages of the religion. And so one of the things about Hinduism is that it's known for being very tolerant of both different beliefs and different religions. And in Hinduism, we believe that all religions have equal importance, equal value, and they all are different means to the same goal. And I interpret this in the same way as having tolerance for people's beliefs regarding abortion. And so that tolerance isn't just in terms of religion, but in terms of any decisions in life. And so that to me is a support for pro-choice, because you're giving everyone the right to decide how they want to live their life. Another big factor for Hinduism is gender equality. I think that you can find evidence of cases where women may not be treated as equal, but in the very origins of Hinduism, women were priests, women were given equal respect, equal importance. And even today, the strength and the energy that comes from God is considered feminine energy. And so there is very clear beliefs that women have equal rights and equal importance. And the third thing is, which was spoken about a little bit before too, is that ultimately there's individual ethical choice. So each person makes their own choices in life, and those choices inform your karma, or like the results of your choices, which would help you to reach liberation. And so each person has autonomy and has the right to make their own choices. Especially there is teachings in Hinduism for nonviolence. And so that's the aspect of, if abortion is a violent act, discouraging that. But ultimately, the guidance is that each person should take action that is causing the least harm in a given situation. And so if in that situation, having an abortion causes least harm, then I interpret that as a reason to have an abortion and give someone that choice. And in general, the idea that each person has the power and the right to make decisions in their life, and that will then inform how they are, if they're reborn, and how they reach liberation. And so those are kind of the factors that are really important to me. And day to day in my life, those are the factors that I keep in mind about following my duty, doing my responsibilities, treating others with respect and kindness, and really appreciating, recognizing the values of others and their choices and their beliefs.
Oh my gosh, that all sounds amazing and wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I appreciate actually that we had two of you on speaking about the same thing and it didn't come out the same way. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, now we are going to hear from Asma. Wait, and I even know where you are. Asma, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to talk to us about Islam.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Asma Raza, and I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. And my son lives at the other end of the state in Kansas City, so shout out to all the Kansas City people. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on what Islam says about abortion. In the media and everything, I think we think of Islam as this very strict path, but there is actually a lot of leeway. So first of all, life is sacred. Life is given by God, it is sacred, and abortion is never meant to be used like birth control. So that's the one thing that, number one. After that, our scripture, the Quran, that goes back over 1400 years ago. And in it, it does talk about fetal development. So we use the Quran, we use scholars who have written over time, and most of them had written all over 1,000 years ago, and what they derive from this. So we divide up fetal development into 40 days, and that's when it first starts to become anyhow, 40 days is the first definition of fetal development. And then you go up to 120 days, which is the 16 weeks like Gayatri was talking about. So we have the 6 weeks and the 16 weeks. Before 6 weeks, it is pretty liberal in getting abortion allowances. You need a reason. Usually it would be the health of the mother, but it doesn't have to be life endangerment. It can be mental health. It can be the mother was not able to, or the family is not able to continue with this due to any reason. As you get up to the 120 days, that is when we believe that you now have a soul, you now have a human being formed, and you have a person. So after 120 days, there is no allowance, there is very little allowances for abortion. Life of the mother is number one. If the life of the mother is in danger, then yes, an abortion is allowed. You do need physicians to sign off on this. It's not to be nilly-willy. And so that is the one other. In between 40 days and 120 days, kind of a gray zone, and it is a case-by-case study. So as we were saying before, that you can't have this one law over everybody for every case and saying, no, abortion is never allowed. You need to look at individual cases. There's counseling involved, and there is counseling for the whole family, and allowances are there. So that's kind of a nutshell of the Islamic perspective. Again, there are different schools of thoughts, and some are stricter than others. Life is sacred, so this is not a decision to be taken lightly. And we know that with all cases, that is not something to be taken lightly. But it is allowed, and there are reasons. And that's what I think people need to take away, that you can't have one law for everybody and not take into consideration the individuals and what they're going through and why this might be needed. Another aspect I think we talked about is if there's congenital abnormalities with the baby, if the baby's still viable, then an abortion would be discouraged. But if the baby is not going to live, an abortion is allowed. And that's another thing that this law makes women go through, having a baby knowing that it's going to be stillborn or not viable. So the laws have gotten kind of cruel, and I'm glad that we are challenging this because, as Isa was talking about, it is an individual person's decision. And just like I cannot make a decision for you, how can the state and government make a decision for someone? And I'm glad we're talking about this. This is a topic that has always been kind of brushed under, but we need to be loud about it, and we need to make all the different perspectives known. And thank you.
No, thank you, Asma. I think you, by the way, are way too kind in saying that this is only kind of cruel. I think this is very cruel. But I also think you are spot on that, getting to hear, we've only heard from 3 of you already, and I feel like going into my next conversation about abortion, I will be more knowledgeable in terms of how other people perceive this and think about it. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let me find Hazan. Oh, there she is. I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to spotlight you. Are you unmuted now?
Yes.
Beautiful. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. So I want to thank the other panelists also. I'm really enjoying learning from you. Judaism is not a monolithic religion. It's not even actually a religion. It's a group, it's a family, it's a culture, it's a practice. It is religion. There's religion in it, but it's very old, and it's much more than religion. And that's part of what makes this so challenging, because there's also a continuum of practice and a continuum of belief. And every Jewish person is supposed to find a community, and every community is supposed to elect a rabbi or a spiritual leader. And rabbis are supposed to help individual Jews to make difficult decisions when the decisions are difficult, when you have a question about, what does God expect? What does Judaism have to say about this? And abortion is certainly one of those subjects. So just a moment about how do Jews make really hard decisions. We looked to our text. We have thousands of years of sacred text, starting with the Bible. And in every generation, there have been Gedolim, there have been brilliant people who have commentated on the text that came before them. And those texts become precedent makers. And so today's rabbis look to commentaries on books that came before in order to understand. So the most, the first text that we look at when it comes to questions of abortion is what happened in the Bible when two men were fighting and a woman got pushed and a miscarriage happened. And what ends up happening is that the man who's responsible for pushing that woman has to pay a fine, a fee, but he's not liable for murder. And from that very first case, the rabbis understood, and generations later, that the legal status of a fetus is different than the legal status of a person who is born. And from that beginning, from that kernel, you end up with thousands of years of conversation of what is the legal status and when does it change? And the first concept is that for the first 40 days, the pregnancy is like water, and therefore it's not even actually an abortion during those first 40 days. It's because it's not a fetus. After those first 40 days, if there is some, and I'm now going to kind of jump to the end, that after the first 40 days, if the situation is that the woman's in any danger, and different rabbis in different communities will help to define the danger, right? In some communities, a rabbi will only be moved to allow abortion if the woman's life is imminently in danger. In other situations or in other communities, it might be a woman has other children she can't provide. There's even a conversation of what if, God forbid, this pregnancy is because of adultery? Will it cause her shame? Is it because the fetus is malformed? Whatever it is, the idea that the fetus could be harming the woman, it creates a legal status for the fetus, that the fetus is actually a pursuer, and the fetus has the woman's life in its sights, and it is actually incumbent to have an abortion. So it's not just that the woman gets to choose, it's that if she feels that her life is in danger, and particularly if her rabbi agrees with her, then she must have an abortion. And so there's, again, I don't have enough time. I mean, there's so many different ideas in Judaism. I could talk for a half hour. And I was going to share a screen, but it's too complicated. I mean, what I'm going to share with you was too complicated. Suffice to say, I'm a mother of two daughters who are now 22 and 20. And while the days that I might need an abortion are probably truly behind me, if God forbid my daughters had to make that choice, I want this to be an option for them. And I hope that none of our daughters ever have to make that choice. And I'm like getting caught up in it, but Judaism sees it as a life-saving procedure.
Well, thank you so much. And I can say, as a Jewish mother of two young women who are 22 and 20, I could not agree with you more. Thank you. Okay, let me find Mackenzie. Bear with me all. Wave at me, Mackenzie. Oh, there you are. I got you. It's so hard. There's 3 screens. Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm enjoying so much just hearing so many different perspectives and beliefs, learning so much. So like Melissa said, my name is Mackenzie Davis. I was born and raised within the LDS faith. I currently live just outside of Washington, D.C. Love it. I'm hoping to go see the cherry blossoms sometime soon, maybe. I'm a homebody and an introvert, so we will see if that actually happens. I was born and raised predominantly in St. Louis and actually lived there for 2 years recently. So, in fun fact, there are about 75,000 Mormons in Missouri. And just a very tiny overview of the church. The full name of the church is actually the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And church leadership has actually asked members not to really use the term Mormon anymore, but it is so well known and it's shorter. So that's the term that I am using tonight. And as the name indicates, we are Christians. We believe in Jesus Christ and his atonement and resurrection, and believe that he is the head of the church. Institutionally, we have a prophet and apostles that can guide the organization and provide direction and counsel. And we believe in the Bible. And we also have a couple additional books of scripture, including the Book of Mormon, that we follow. So abortion within the faith is most succinctly described within the General Handbook of the Church. And this is essentially just a handbook full of guidance for general and local church leaders. And so I will quote and kind of paraphrase from that to describe what the official policy is. So the church opposes elective abortion for personal or social convenience. Members must not submit to, perform, arrange for, pay for, consent to, or encourage an abortion. The only possible exceptions are rape or incest, if the life or health of the mother is in serious jeopardy, or if there are severe fetal defects that are not conducive to life past birth. Given that there are about 26% of Mormons within the United States who would describe themselves as strongly or somewhat pro-choice. The issue of when life starts is not super clear within the faith. There are a lot of different topics and different evidences for when you would say that starts. So I won't go into that, but there is a really fantastic article that looks at the intersection of official policy, what church leaders have said over the years, and also what kind of scripture and doctrine implies about abortion by Peggy Fletcher Stack in the Salt Lake Tribune, called Surprise, the LDS Church Can Be Seen as More Pro-Choice Than Pro-Life on Abortion. Here's why. And I give you the title because she is a prolific writer on things Mormon. So personally, and as some others have said, Mormons are not a monolith. I do not speak for the church. I don't speak for the majority of Mormons even. But my view on abortion is largely influenced by something that we call the baptismal covenant. And covenants are a very important part of Mormon theology. Essentially, this just means that we're making promises with God. And the covenant that we make at baptism, typically that happens when you're 8 years old, when you're born in the faith, happens when you decide to join if you were not born into the faith. Part of the covenant that you're making at baptism includes 3 key things for me. First one is mourning with those that mourn. The second one is comforting those that stand in need of comfort. And the third is standing as a witness of God at all times and in all things and in all places. And to me, those 3 things are just kind of reinforcing each other, because I very firmly and deeply believe that the nature of God, as best exemplified by the life of Jesus Christ, is one of love and compassion and empathy. And, as we all know, the reasons why a pregnant person would pursue an abortion are so varied, and those decisions are deeply personal. And so for me, the best way to continue upholding my baptismal covenant is to trust that person, trust that they know themselves, trust. And as Denise mentioned before, with so many people seeking abortions who already have children, trust that they're able to make the best decision for their families. And that's how I can best live my faith in that way. So.
Mackenzie, that was amazing. Thank you so much. That was a great explanation, and I very much appreciate it. Let me find Allison. Oh, thank you, Allison. You already knew to wave at me. I appreciate you. Are you muted still, or are you unmuted?
I'm unmuted.
Welcome, Allison. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My pronouns are she, her, and y'all, just so you know that. And tonight I'm speaking on behalf of ethical humanism. The first time I walked into the Ethical Society of St. Louis was 40 years ago. Matthew and I came to hear a coworker of mine at the Hope Clinic for Women speak positively on abortion. I remember the kindergarten class that day was watching a film about sperm meeting egg, and I thought, wow, this is the place to raise children. Matthew grew up Presbyterian, I grew up Episcopalian, and we liked the idea of being part of a community, but we had concerns about the dogma. I had recently called churches in both of those denominations, asking their beliefs on gays and lesbians and on legal abortion. And remember, this was in the 80s, and those poor church secretaries were probably not prepared for my phone call, but neither of them could tell me that their congregation had a positive position on either issue. So we joined the Ethical Society, and we have been very grateful for all the support that we still receive after all these decades. The Ethical Society of St. Louis was founded in the 1800s as part of the ethical culture movement, which began in New York City. We are the largest congregation in the American Ethical Union. At the society, it does not matter whether a person believes in a deity. As the founder of our movement, who was a former rabbi, said, "This is the place where the churched and the unchurched come together to do good works." The Ethical Society places a much higher value on how one behaves than what they believe, and we call that deed before creed. When well into our first pregnancy, Matthew and I were told that the fetus had a rare condition not compatible with life. I was too far along for an abortion. I was too far for Hope Clinic for Women in Illinois, where I worked. I was too far along for our private OBGYN at Barnes. And I was too far along for my friend, Dr. George Tiller in Wichita, Kansas, whose clinic had been firebombed 2 weeks prior. Our daughter Amelia was born and lived for 31 days in the neonatal intensive care unit at Children's Hospital before life support was removed. The leader of the Ethical Society visited us in the hospital with kind and caring words of support. We held Amelia's memorial service at the Ethical Society, and there is a brick for her in the memory garden there. 2 years later, when our son was born, who's perfectly healthy, we had a naming ceremony for him at the Society. He grew up going through Sunday ethical education for kids from kindergarten through the coming of age class in the 8th grade, and through the youth group in high school, which included annual youth conferences with the 25 other societies in the country. Later, his wedding was held at this society. Our Ethical Society has taken a stand on the right to access abortion care, and not just in cases where, like Matthew and I had. People ought to be able to make their own decisions. We support our members who are active in many progressive issues, such as the unhoused, LGBTQ rights, the Black Lives Matter movement, single-payer healthcare, opposition to war, girls' education in Uganda, climate action, and many others. We do not have a rigid dogma. We do have a set of core values with which we raise our children. And I want to share the last 4 of those values with you. I am free to question. I am free to choose what I believe. I accept responsibility for my choices and actions, and I strive to live my values. Our website, if anybody's interested, is ethicalstl.org. Thank you.
Allison, thank you so much for sharing. My tears were flowing. I am so sorry about your Amelia. That must have been very difficult, and I'm so grateful for you for sharing with us tonight.
Thank
I'm old school, so I'm not very good at this
You're perfect.
technology stuff. So my name is Lynette Johnson, and I am a retired music teacher. I taught for 33 years in the North Kansas City and the Kansas City, Missouri School District. When I first moved to Kansas City in 1981, Planned Parenthood was my favorite friend because they helped me with all of my health needs, my birth control. They were always just incredibly wonderful. And so I'm distressed about a lot of these things that are happening. So I'm going to speak from the Episcopal standpoint, which is a part of the Protestant church. We kind of have a threefold tenet to our theology. We do believe in scripture, we believe in tradition, and we believe in reason. The reason part is why I became involved with the Episcopal Church. The Episcopal Church is a pro-choice church, and it is a member of the, let's see, what I've got to see, Religious Coalition for Reproductive Health. So, and I also then, I went to Google, which is everybody's friend, and decided to look up in the Bible, not in the Bible, but just see what biblical references there really are to abortion. Well, the site that I went to said it does not appear in the Bible. So that was like, whoa, okay. And then they also said life begins at birth. And they had a beautiful quotation about when they take their first breath, that is the beginning of life. And that's just a beautiful, beautiful thought for me. So let's talk about the Episcopal Church. So the Episcopal Church in 1967 said, because I did all this research about it, said the Episcopal Church has maintained its unequivocal opposition to any legislation on the part of the national or state governments which would abridge or deny the right of individuals to reach informed decisions about the termination of pregnancy and to act upon them. 1967, that was before Roe versus Wade. They have continued with that stance. After Dobbs, our presiding bishop, said that the Episcopal Church reaffirms our commitment to equitable access to women's health care, including women's reproductive health care, which we view as an integral part of a woman's struggle to assert her dignity and worth as a human being. They also went on to say that abortion are a medical procedure and they should be looked at as a medical procedure. And I thought that was rather telling. Now, within the Episcopal Church, we do have lots of different sects. Not everyone believes all these things, but as a national community, that is our stance. And as far as my personal, during all of my reproductive years, I had a choice. And there were several times that I wondered what the choice was going to be. I have a daughter that's 28, and I think it's only right that she has the choice. And if she has children, and if she has girls, they also need to have the choice. It's not up to any nation or to any state to make that choice, but it's up to them. And that's part of women's health. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to make myself the big one for the moment. And that way, when we have some questions, I can spotlight some people. First of all, thank you all so much. That was amazing. It's like the best lecture class I ever got to attend and the most interesting. So thank you. And it was very interesting. Obviously, I said before that I'm Jewish, but I connected with something that each of you said about your own religion or your own belief system. So that was really interesting because I think if people were more aware, they would find that same connectivity. Mike, the first question that has come in so far, and I know we've gone a little bit long, so hopefully we can do a couple of these. There was a question regarding both Hindu and Islam, and it could apply to the other religions as well, but specifically these. Do they believe in exceptions for rape? Anybody who wants to take that question?
Yeah, this is Asma.
Asma, yes.
Yeah. So I think I glossed over that. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, in cases of rape, it is permissible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And for,
There actually, okay, so there is one small group that says even in the case of rape, that is probably not allowed. And their thinking is that these are societal ills and problems, evils of society. We need to address these. If a child is born from a rape, that child must be taken care of, and the society needs to take care of that baby and take responsibility. So it's looking at a bigger picture kind of view that, you know, it's not the baby's fault, that it's not the mother's fault. It is society's fault, and society needs to address this and take care of this, and not just maybe abort the baby and get rid of the evidence, so to speak. So that is one, yeah, some people do believe
okay,
that, but the vast majority, it is allowed.
okay. Gayatri, can I ask you the same question? Wait 1 second, let me, hang on, you might be muted.
Muted myself, yes. So I would actually agree with what Asma said about the Islamic scriptures. It's pretty much the same in such cases where it might cause distress to the mother. It is absolutely okay to abort, because Hinduism does not ban abortion at all. It just says don't do it, that's it. But it doesn't ban, so it is pretty much the same. And there is a school of thought that says, you know, and don't do it in any case. And there is a school of thought that says it's fine to do it as well. So again, the larger picture, the smaller picture, it's pretty much the same. So yeah, I would just, I don't know, mirror the same thoughts on that.
Perfect, thank you. I was gonna say that it's interesting how often religions, sometimes within the variety of, not the variety, the spectrum of, for example, Reformed to Orthodox, there is sometimes just variations in how things are interpreted. And so,
yes, because for all practical purposes, you know, things
yes,
are done, it is aborted, and you know, where there is such a distress situation, absolutely.
right. Tal, I'm going to bring you, if I can find you, bear with me. There you are, hang on. I'm gonna add you. Tal, you were gonna share something?
Yeah, I realized that one of the things that I did not say, and I wanted to make sure everybody understood it, is that Judaism does not have, like the Catholic Church, there's no one leader in Judaism who can make decisions for everyone. And in Judaism's over 3,000-year history, all of the Jews have never agreed about anything. Like, I think that's one of the few things I can say with like really be sure about it. So,
Just come to any Passover table and you'll know. I mean, you can't put 4 of us in a room and think we're gonna agree.
Or 2 even, really, yeah.
Or sometimes 1, but yes. Thank you. Let me ask Mackenzie. Well, Mackenzie, you have a question and I'm gonna ask you a question. So wait, let me pull Mackenzie in. There you are. Let me bring you in. Mackenzie, the question for you is, how is abortion discussed among LDS in general? Let me stop my own nonsense while you do that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I mean, if the question is like, what do people in general think about it? It's the majority, I would say, like definitely frown upon it, and probably mostly don't have a problem with a lot of the laws that are being passed. Although it's, I mean, it's hard to say because you're so, you have your own congregations, and so you're limited to what the people in your congregation are saying, or then people you know, connect with otherwise. So I hang out with a lot of liberal Mormons. So
It's like being on Facebook. You only ever hear the same things because you're in that little bubble.
right.
Yes. Okay, cool. Do you feel that the text you read guides your opinion, or do you think people stray from that and kind of interpret it their own way?
So I would say in Judaism, both. The Jewish texts, so what I didn't get a chance to say, so I'm really glad that I get to talk on this, is that Judaism, all of these rabbis get a chance to share their takeaway from who came before, and all of those opinions are going to be not exactly canonized, but they're all going to be promulgated. And so there might be majority opinions as well as minority opinions. And one opinion might say, you know, X, and the other opinion would be exactly in contradiction to that. And as a follower, I can choose, I'm going to go this way because of this argument, which uses these texts to support it. And all of the different arguments are going to relate, are going to pull in different source texts, because again, like Jewish law, and this is a question of law in Judaism. It's not just the woman can decide. It's given all of this legal material, this body of legal material, you figure out which legal argument resonates for you, and then that's what you need to do. And I love, by the way, what the woman who ethical, from the Ethical Society,
Allison.
like Allison, thank you. To live by your values is critical. It's critical. It's no it's no accident that the founder of the Ethical Society was a rabbi. That really is important.
I would agree. Let me ask, somebody has asked, and this could be for all of you to answer, maybe except Tal, since you are one. Does your faith have women leaders and practitioners? And do you think that having women as sacred faith leaders makes a difference regarding your faith and reproductive justice? Lynette, I'm going to start with you. I found you.
Yes, absolutely. The Episcopal Church has women bishops. Actually, the West Missouri that I'm a member of has a woman bishop, and she is a dynamo. We have priests, we have deacons that are women, and of all different sorts and all different ages. And I think it makes a big, big difference in reproductive values and things. Our current bishop now has established a committee from the diocese, Peace and Justice, and that's a committee that I'm part of. And the whole reproductive rights issue is one that we're hopefully going to undertake in the next months and years.
Okay,
so
perfect.
thank you.
No, thank you, Allison. I'm gonna put you in here.
Well, we refer to, instead of a rabbi or a priest or an imam, we refer to the person who's leading us as our leader. And yes, we have women who we currently have one right this minute. So it's not an issue.
Okay, perfect. I am going to, let's see. Okay, Mackenzie, what about you?
There are no women leaders with authority in the LDS Church.
Okay.
There are women who are in charge of auxiliary organizations, but they don't have authority to make large important decisions, and they're not given a lot of airtime when we have our semi-annual conferences for the whole church.
Do you think that affects what you were saying about, you know, you think the majority of people probably agree with the laws that are in place?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if they completely, I said that.
Sure.
There could be, there could be lots of variation. But it's definitely possible. I would like to think that if there were more women leaders and they were given spots at the decision-making tables and we heard more from them, that there would be more openness to this conversation and a greater variety of opinions. But I was actually just listening to a panel this week regarding a completely different topic. And one of the speakers said, the best thing that the patriarchy has done is to convince women to fight against their own interests. And I think that's true. And so in that sense, it may not necessarily make a difference. I would like to hope so, but you never know.
Thank you. Gayatri, can I ask you the same thing?
Sure thing. If you could repeat the question so that I would be able to answer it better. Too many answers.
The question, does your faith have women leaders and practitioners, and do you think that having women as sacred faith leaders makes a difference regarding the faith and your faith and reproductive justice?
Well, yes. Earlier in the times when the religion was started, it was pretty ancient religion, thousands of years old. And at that time, we did have many women leaders and practitioners and seers and sages. But of late, there has not been many. But Hinduism does worship the goddess. The sacred feminine is extremely important. So worshiping the goddess is throughout the religion. So I would think that because of that, the women, and it's been like a consistent, direct, consistent, and specific worshiping of the goddess. So because of that, I would think that, giving the women the freedom and the liberty to choose is quite high.
And Isha, what do you think on that? Since you're in the same religion, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think with Hinduism, there isn't a religious leader that, like Gayatri Auntie has also said, there isn't a religious leader that is telling you how to practice or what the rules are, what the guidance is. Priests are there as more of helping you to communicate with God, but in all my times going to temple, there hasn't been this direction that like, this is our belief as a Hindu or anything like that. I think traditionally, right now, most priests are men, but I have seen that women that are interested in it have gone through the learning process and have become priests as well. And I think in our community, there are a lot of the people that I've learned about Hinduism from are women who are scholars are learning about this, and they are teaching us the principles. And so even though priests for the most part are men, if in my mind a religious leader, I've seen a lot of women too.
Okay, I'm gonna add, I'm gonna leave you guys here. I'm gonna bring Ozma in. Ozma, tell me, I'm gonna see how many spotlights I can do at the same time. It's gonna be a little learning curve. Ozma, what about you? Are there women, and what do you think about that affecting Islam?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have lots of women scholars and women commentaries written by women, and it does change the perspective, like what my grandparents grew up with in their text written in their language. My cousin and I go back and read it now, and it's this really old male view. So it is interesting that now we have more women scholars. Now in our ritualistic prayer though, our Friday prayers, those are led by a male, and that's kind of more of a, that's just it's a very physical prayer where we stand close together to each other. So the women are in one area and the men in another area. So it's the male's voice that's over the loudspeaker leading us. If it's just a women's gathering, then women lead women in prayer, but just not in the mixed gathering. So it is good that we now have more women doing scholarly work, and it does make a difference in your interpretations.
Thank you so much. I know we have gone a little bit over. I cannot thank you all enough. Let me see if I can get, let's just see if I can get all of my guests up here on the screen, which by the way, if I realize that I can do this, then I'm going to wish I had done it. Let me just get you all here. And now I got to find Denise. There you are. Yay. You were on a different screen. I'm finding you. Okay.
Hi.
Helena, am I missing anyone?
No, you're good.
Look at me. And now we can play Brady Bunch. Okay. I cannot thank all of you people enough for coming and doing this with us. And I cannot thank the audience enough for coming and listening. Some takeaways that I am supposed to remind you all of. First of all, we are going to be having more of these speaker series. This was literally our first try at this. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I know Helen and I did preparing it. Thank you. And we will have another one in 2 weeks on legislative priorities. And Helena, chime in 2 weeks after that. What is the topic?
Sorry, I'm trying to start my video so I can talk. Here we go.
Yes, I should join you. Where are you?
The next one, I don't know where I am, but the next one is on Tuesday, April 11th, and the topic is gender disparities, and we're going to be talking about gender disparities, income, opportunity, healthcare, health outcomes for women and for women of color. And so we'll be taking a little bit of a deep dive on that topic. So please do join us. And if you know anybody who lives in, I'm not going to share the screen because I love just seeing our panelists here. But if you know anybody who lives in St. Louis, please share the fact that we exist to them. We have an event in person on Sunday, May 21st in Springfield, and we're wanting to connect with like-minded women in Springfield and see how we can support their efforts. So that's it. I really want to thank everybody for coming, and thank you for doing a great job hosting, Melissa, and
No worries.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
We really appreciate it. We'll see you all soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.